Hey everyone, Token Dave over here, the dorky token black guy that's just trying to get by. And welcome to another edition of the Token 5. You know, now I know that I normally do a Token 10, but I'm not always going to do a top 10 list. There are times I'll do a top 5 list, and potentially there might be a time where I do a top 15 list. But my list will mostly be in the top 10 or top 5 tier. Anyway, this Token 5 is actually in conjunction with Helltober, my celebration of horror and Halloween for the month of October. I lost track of the dates, and Stranger Things Season 2 came out on Netflix yesterday. And for those that are asking, there's a 50-50 chance that I will get to that for Helltober. I can't promise it, but I will say that I'll end up doing a lowdown on Season 2. Actually, I should be studying for my midterm, and as well as I should have done a lowdown for Marshall already, but neither here or there. Stranger Things Season 2 has me thinking, there's a subject that's mostly not talked about or given light to. And that is child protagonists in horror films. I really feel personally that child actors get a really bad rap for being terrible, which most of them are, but guys, they're kids and everything. They're not expected to be able to perform that very well at that young age. But there are times where kids perform remarkably well, hence like Stranger Things, But with that said, I am actually going to give my favorite 5 child protagonists or survivors in horror movies. Keep in mind, this list may be subject to change in the future, especially when things advance a little bit more on my page, right? But as of now, here are my 5 favorite child protagonists or survivors of horror films. Kicking off number 5 is Charlene or Charlie McGee from Firestarter. The worst movie on this list, with the example of why it's number 5 on the top 5 list and everything. However, the people really gave Drew Barrymore a bad rap for this, and it's not entirely her fault. And to be honest, I'll admit this movie is really boring, and it's not a good adaptation of Stephen King's novel, which I might talk about in years down the road, but neither here nor there. Drew Barrymore's performance as a young child whose parents were experimented on by a governmental agency whom has, pyrokinesis and everything. Well, pyrotelekinesis, because not only does she have telepathy, right, but she also has telekinesis and pyrokinesis. Drew Barrymore actually gave off the child that is confused, does not really understand the depth of her power and everything, and comes off as a very tragic character and everything. And Drew Barrymore herself was one of the best child actors that I've ever known. And, I really feel that this particular horror movie, with her forefront in the center, while it's a hard watch, it is actually a decent performance for a child actor and everything. So that's why Charlie McGee is my number 5 child protagonist or survivor of all horror movies. And regrettably, the only female on the list. Sorry. Number 4. Now, my number 4 and number 3 constantly change. They constantly go back and forth a lot. However, number 4 at this moment in time, I will say is Brad Brown from Critters. Critters is actually one of my favorite horror movies, and as well, one of the first ones I was allowed to watch as a kid, being that it had a PG-13 rating. And in the forefront is young Bradley Brown, a mischievous farm boy, whom his home is actually attacked when a group of carnivorous aliens crashes into his farm. I consider Critters, the Popples Gone Evil. You know, Popples was a popular, well, I don't know if it was popular because hardly anyone remembers it, but it was a cartoon series in the 80s where you got these little, cute little furry creatures that turn into balls. Why do I call the critters Popples Gone Evil? Well, they are small alien creatures that turn into black balls, shoot darts, and basically will eat you alive and everything. And Brad Brown, whom in the second movie is considered the boy who called Critter, is like basically the one person that always gets under the skin of the critters who are known as Krites. Plus, to top it off, not only is he mischievous and, you know, kid plays with fireworks and everything, and he's in basically rural area, so you know he's going to actually try to purposely cause trouble and actually is going to identify with the town drunk and everything. Scott Grimes actually was very much forgotten, you know, and, you know, until Seth MacFarlane helped save his career with basically Family Guy, where he plays the voice of the youngest son, and currently on Orville as his, his layman, actually. No, his Haleman. So, Scott Grimes as Brad Brown is awesome and everything. Number 3. Andy Barkley from Child's Play. Okay, you know, I'm going to say this right now. Of this whole list, Alex Vincent gave the best performance out of everybody on this list as a child actor in a horror movie. As the lead protagonist in most of the Child's Play series, in the first outing, Andy Barkley is just basically a normal 6-year-old boy who's wanted a good guy doll and everything. Something that I was easily able to relate to because I wanted my buddy doll. And it kind of didn't help that I got the doll 2 days before I saw Child's Play. But even neither here nor there. Alex Vincent's performance as Andy is remarkable. You know, as a 6-year-old boy, he comes off with a great range of emotion that you can definitely feel. You know, a young boy that, like, gets thrown into a mix that he still does not understand really how the world works, let alone gets actually, like, you know, enthralled with a murder mystery and in the world of voodoo with a particular voodoo curse, you know, cursing his doll and his doll setting him up for murders, as well as that particular doll trying to use him as a conduit and everything for his actual spiritual being, you know. So Andy Barkley gets the number 3 spot in my top 5 child protagonists / survivors. Number 2, William Poindexter, aka, and which is mostly known as Fool, the People Under the Stairs. The only token black character that made the top 5 list, and goddamn, he rated very high and everything. I will talk about the movie The People Under the Stairs in next Helltober or Helltober 2, whichever I decide to call it. So, horror legend Wes Craven, other than George A. Romero, has actually done a little bit more with putting a black cast in horror movies, in mainstream movie. And if anyone really watches the trailers, you know, the original theatrical or TV trailers, there was no spot of African Americans being in this movie for obvious reasons. But then when you watch the movie, you know, you're thinking, you find out that, okay, it's going to be a crook that's the lead character. But actually, the lead character is a gifted young African American boy whom is highly intelligent and everyone is aware of. However, it looks as if his intelligence is not going to properly blossom due to his sociological conditions, mainly in part to his landlords, whom we find out are some evil sadistic cannibals and everything, whom are locking unwanted guests into their house. Now, this might make the landlords sound like, hey, you know, they're trying to make sure that their area is safe from being in a rundown, impoverished area. But when you watch this movie, oh boy, the crap that these two people do are horrific. And when we have a young 11-year-old boy trapped in this house and trying to rescue a a fellow child from her sadistic parents and everything, Fool actually gets the number 2 spot for his wit, his charm, his intelligence, as well as his urban swag and everything, which is gone way underutilized and way underappreciated. So, before I get to my number 1 pick, I need to make a couple of honorable mentions. Honorable mention number 1, Reggie the Reckless from Friday the 13th Part 5. One of the worst entries of the series. I give Friday the 13th props for trying to put a child protagonist in the lead. They did this in Part 4, and as well as Part 5. In Part 5, we have Reggie the Reckless, a young African-American boy who is actually having to stay at a halfway house that his grandfather works in. Now, Reggie to some can come off as annoying, but you have to admit, when shit hits the fan, Reggie ends up kicking ass and everything. So, yes, he's a little annoying, and top it off, he does act like a kid with an older brother who he's really not allowed to see for unknown reasons, but Reggie does kick ass in Part 5. Another honorable mention, Marty Coleslaw. I'm not going to go too much into detail in this video because we will be discussing Marty in my next review. So, who's number 1? Michael Pearson from Phantasm. I have a hard time debating if this is Phantasm my favorite horror series, or if a couple of other ones are. But Phantasm holds a real special place in my heart, not only because it's the movie that helped establish the bond that me and my uncle have. However, also the lead character as I keep forgetting they always change it. If he's 12 or 13, I still to this day say that he's 13 and everything. But Mike in this movie, wow. I mean, we got a kid that gets to ride dirt bikes, gets to shoot guns and everything, and gets to go up a supernatural entity, in the Tall Man and his minions, whom, by the way, the Tall Man, rest in peace out, Angus Grimm, is one of the most underrated horror villains of all time. And Michael going up against this dude that has unnatural strength, that is harvesting all the dead in his town to make them his minions. And Mike, with encountering him in the morgue, with going to another dimension, with shooting guns, riding a car and everything, and actually assisting to defeat him in his first outing, Michael Pearson is basically a kid of action throughout the whole movie and is just amazeballs. And with Phantasm being one of my favorite horror movies of all time and everything, actually I think it's in my top 5 or my top 3, gotta sit down and think, Michael Pearson, portrayed by A. Michael Baldwin at that time, gets the number 1 child protagonist survivor spot. Agree? Disagree? Drop me a comment below. Give me a like. Follow me on Facebook at TokenDave or on Twitter at TokenDave80. Subscribe and ring that bell so you know when a new video loads. But until then, this has been Token Dave, the dorky token black guy who's just trying to get by, and I'll catch you guys later.